So if you're struggling as a business owner, this video is going to be for you because we got a great question in our community. Somebody asked, and I'm going to share my screen to show you guys the question here. I'm going to flip over to that real quick, just so you guys can see this. But somebody pretty much is struggling with their business and trying to determine if it's like what they're trying to do. I think it kicked us out. Nope, we're still there. Okay, good. So this was in our private community. It's our perpetual sales machine community. If you want to learn more about that, it's at profitablepineapple.com. But God's will or my will? Not sure if this is the place to post something like this, but I've been struggling with the question of whether my business has been my own will or if it is truly God's will. From the start, I have felt pulled to serve the people that I've been called to serve. However, I've faced several challenges in my business the last 2 years, and there seem to be more and more every single day, which make me think that maybe I'm trying to force my own will and not listen to what God wants from me. Are there any other business owners in this group who have struggled with this discernment? If so, do you have any recommendations other than prayer on how to make sense of it all? So I brought my wife on. If you guys didn't notice, she's right over here. And I thought this was a great question because this is something that I think we've struggled with in the past, and we've struggled with it now. We've struggled with it a week ago. We've struggled with it 10 years ago. We've struggled with it 20 years ago. And so this is something that I think we all get challenged with all the time. Like, are we trying to force something instead of allowing it to happen? And if we are forcing it, is it forcing it, or is it listening to God, or is it not listening to God? Is it just kind of what is going on here? So I brought Jenna on, my lovely wife, Jenna, to talk about what she's going through right now.
Yeah. So I read this question and instantly I was like, oh, this is exactly what I've been going through for the past year. So I'll just tell you a little bit of my story. So, a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, we lost our son. And shortly after that, I started feeling that, okay, maybe I'll write a book about this someday. But it wasn't something that I ever really paid attention to. It was just kind of a feeling. And then in the last year, I have really, probably the last 2 years, had really started asking God for more clarity in my life. What am I supposed to do next? After we sold I Love, I felt a little lost. I was kind of just floating out there, not really sure what I was supposed to be doing.
I call it lost in the ether.
Yes. And so I was really, really asking God for clarity on where, he was taking me in my life. And I found that it took a very long time of me not only praying and asking him for clarity, but also listening, which I actually learned to do better than any other time in the sauna that we have, because it's the one place where I can be completely quiet with my thoughts and with God. And I actually started to listen to him more than just talk to him. And so that was huge. And I started to feel this pull to write the book. Like, that is what he was telling me to do. I am absolutely sure of that. And so,
however, you did not pull the trigger for a while.
Not for a while. Yeah.
There was this time where she was, I'm sorry, but you were like not in the best of moods, I'll say. And it was the long time. And for those that don't know, my wife and I work together. We're together all the time. We're together every single day. We eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We literally are together all the time. And Fridays are our date day. So this is what we're doing for date day.
Mm-hmm.
We did some other stuff too, and one day we were at lunch and she had just been in this funk for like a month. And it wasn't because of winter, because we hate winter.
No, it was in the summertime.
It was in the summertime. And so I just looked at her and I said, what could you talk about for the next 20 years of your life and never get sick of talking about?
And it was grief, like after losing a child. And what did you tell me?
As the supportive husband I am, I said, that sounds awful, but I will support you in any way that I can. So what do we need to do?
Yeah. And so I just said it took me 2 seconds to know exactly what it was that I was supposed to be talking about. And so I said, I'm supposed to write a book. And so I really dove into that and I started writing my book, and it was easy. Like, it was,
I think you wrote it in like a week.
I will say that I have never experienced a flow state like I did when I was writing this book. And it was so amazing to write for so many reasons. I knew that I was following God's will. I knew that I was, this has the potential to help so many people. And so I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. Now, as entrepreneurs, it's always like, okay, the book is great, but what else are you going to do? And so, I started a free Facebook community, which also has been relatively easy to build and grow.
It's grown to like 4,500 members in 2 months.
We have like 4,000 people in 2 months. And that's, partially because 1 in 4 women experience the loss of a baby. And so it's a huge struggle for people. And, it's just something that's not talked about, and nobody wants to talk about it, obviously. And so that has grown, and the community is amazing. And I started to hear from people that they wanted more support. And so in my mind, I don't know.
We've also grown the email list to like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's like not just it's email list, it's Facebook group. And we've done this with very minimal money. I think we spent like maybe under $1,000 to build that whole list. So that's 6,000 people. That's very cheap cost per lead. This is my business mind going. So not the God's will or my will thing. And so as a business owner, I saw it as an opportunity, not an opportunity to make a lot of money, but an opportunity to serve more people. And I think that's where a lot of people get wrong in this, is just because there's opportunity there to make money, it's not necessarily that the making money should be your purpose. It needs to be the service. And when you serve and focus on the service part of it, this is going back to why I've talked many times about why you need to focus on your why. But when you focus on service, the money follows, regardless of what industry you're in. And most of us focus on the money and not the service. So anyway.
Yeah. So I wanted to give people a way to have more support if they needed it. So a weekly support group where we could get on video calls and just talk to each other, peer led, possibly having experts come on, therapists and other writers and things like that, pastors, that are willing to come on and talk to the group. And so I put that out there, for people to join, and got absolutely no one. Like one person.
That's not one.
And she was excited.
That's one person.
Very excited. She needed it. She knew she needed it. But that's your 2:30.
Oh, geez. I forgot about that. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. Well, I can keep talking for a little bit. So anyway, and so I put it out there and got basically no response. And so therein lies the struggle, right? Like you hit that roadblock, and I started to doubt, not that what I'm doing is God's will, because I know that helping these women is exactly what I've been called to do via my book, but does it involve anything else? And so many entrepreneurs out there I know, which I don't know that I even consider myself an entrepreneur, but so many entrepreneurs out there would say, well, that feeling that you're having and that barrier that you're hitting is just the resistance. I think it's Stephen Pressfield that talks about that. And, that resistance, if you push through that resistance, that's where you can really see change, and you can really help a lot of people, and you can really, do God's will. But another part of me started to feel like, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Like, maybe this is not the right time. Maybe that's God's way of telling me that. And I think I've also gotten, wrapped up in the book writing and the community building and all of that, and trying to help all these women, that I've probably listened less to God during that time. So it's been harder for me to discern what He's actually calling me to do. So in all honesty, Travis is not happy with me, but I was just feeling a little icky about it. Like I wasn't feeling right. Everything in my body was telling me like, this isn't the right time. And so I pulled back. I closed the community for now, and I'm just, building up a wait list right now. My book comes out in May. And so I'm just kind of going to focus on that and go from here. Part of me believes that if it's God's will, He will make it happen. And it may be in another way. So maybe it happens later. Maybe it's 5 years from now. Maybe it's in a totally different way that I'm going to help women, that is more His will than my will. So when Travis gets back, he can talk a little bit more about that. But also another thing that, in reading about this, I think, we've all struggled with this. If you haven't, then I would love to hear from you if you know exactly what God is telling you to do. But I think if we are, in what you're doing, if you are chasing the fruits of the Spirit, then that is a good thing as well. Or if the things that you're doing are building the fruits of the Spirit in you, which are, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So if you are, feeling those things being built in you, then that's a good indication that what you're doing is good and it's in alignment with God's will. So I think about other examples in my life of resistance, right? So we all, to some extent, whether you like to work out or not, you will feel resistance. Like when you get up in the morning, you're like, it's 5 a.m. or whatever time. I really don't want to work out right now. But because I know that it's good for me and it's good for my body to take care of my body, I will get up and I will do it, and that's pushing through the resistance in a way. In other ways, people might have, business examples where they push through the resistance. But that's just a simple way of showing that, like, that's one easy example, So I don't know. I'm interested to see. You ready?
All right. Thanks.
Okay, he's going to come back in. We'll talk a little bit about that. I was just talking about how, how to know, like whether you're need to push through the resistance or not. Like I talked about, one example would be getting up in the morning. It's 5 a.m. You don't want to get out of bed and work out, but you know that that's good for your body. You know that, God wants you to do that. So you get up and do it anyway. Like that's a way of pushing through that resistance, that feeling of resistance that you have. That's just one small example.
I mean, resistance hits you like 400 times a day.
All the time.
And so like yesterday I didn't wake up and when my alarm went off, because I just got back from a conference at 10:30 the night before. My alarm went off at 5 and I was like, resistance hit, I'm sleeping in right now. And so I did not get up. This morning it hit again because I was still tired, but I got up today and I pushed through the resistance because my workout today sucked. It was 50 devil presses, which if you've never done a devil press, it's the worst thing in the world. It is a burpee combined with a kettlebell swing, but an American kettlebell swing where you go over your heads. So it was a pain in the butt and I didn't want to do it. But resistance hits you every single day and it hits you constantly. And if you've never read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, he talks about it, the whole book. And it's just an amazing book. It's very short. And it just talks about that resistance that as entrepreneurs, we have to get through. If we don't get through it, no one will. 99% of people in this world give in. They just give into the resistance. The resistance hits you when you want to have that drink and you know you shouldn't have it, but you do anyway. Resistance hits you when you don't want to wake up in the morning. The resistance hits you when you don't want to start that, or you want to start that business, but you never do because you're too afraid to. And so resistance it's massive. It's in our life every single day. And like I said, 99% of people just kind of go with it.
But I also think you need to focus on what are you chasing? I think back to I Love, and when we were running I Love, all of the times that we struggled the most was when we were chasing money. It was like trying to make more money when we lost all our inventory and all of that, like what were we doing? We were chasing money when we
more me than her.
Yes. But when we had so much going on, we couldn't even juggle all of these businesses that we were doing. What were we doing them for? It was because it brought in more money, and we don't need more money. God knows the amount of money that we need. And so He's going to give us the amount of money that we need. We're always going to be
the amount of money that you can steward at that time,
exactly.
The amount of money that you can handle at that time.
So I think if you're chasing, and maybe for me in that support group mindset, the paid group at least, it was, okay, well, I can make some money from this, get some of the money back that I've spent on writing the book and things like that and starting the community. But maybe that's what I was chasing at the time. I don't know. That's just something that I need to sit with, I think.
That was something that we were talking about this earlier today, and because this question came up and we were talking about it in the car, and I was a good listener. And I said, do you want me to listen or do you want me to suggest? But now I'm going to suggest. So
I said listen earlier.
I listened earlier and now I'm suggesting. So my personal thoughts on the paid community side that Jenna didn't want to start, and she kind of, I will say, I'm going to call you a quitter, but she quit on it.
Call me a quitter. That's fine.
She quit on it. Was that she didn't want to lead something alone, Whereas in I Love, and even on this video, she's beside me. And so with that, it was going to be her. And so it scared her. That was a massive resistance. And she didn't push through it for now.
But
And
while you were gone, I said, I do think if something is God's will for you, that it is probably not going to miss you. It just might happen in another way.
yes. And I think it will still happen within the next year. Her book comes out May 2nd. We're recording this in February. And so it will happen eventually. And she wants to become a New York Times bestseller. And in my opinion, a book is just the start of a business. A book is just a starter. And
is that your money hat or your God hat?
It is not my money hat. It is just the starter of a business. Because if you put out a book into this world, you put it out for a reason. You put it out because there's lessons to be learned that you need to get out to the people. Now, this goes back to service. You're serving somebody. That's why you came out with the book. You're serving people. You're serving yourself. That you were 5 years ago when we lost Bodhi. That was something you needed, and you thought other women needed it. And so that's why you wrote the book. The books don't profit. Books don't bring in money. You need money to get your word out to the people. And so to serve more, you need money. That's the opportunity I saw with the community. Because if you had 100 people in that community, that would be what, $4,000 a month? No, that's off. Yeah, that's right. $4,000 a month that you can then take and pump back into your book. And so we can take constantly, because if you just use the book, you're going to profit like $5 per sale. And that's hard to get that money circular and to get it out to more people. But if you have a community aspect in the back end, which I think will come later on, 6 to 12 months, then you have more money to pump back into the book, which then gets it out to more people, which then helps more people. And it just kind of brings it more into this flywheel. And so it's slow to push, slow to get started, but it's going to eventually create you as a New York Times bestseller. And I know you're not becoming a New York Times bestseller because of your ego. I know you're doing it because you want to serve more people, and you can do that when you have money. And so we're not doing it for the money. I mean, like, you don't write a book about miscarriage and pregnancy loss for the money. You do it to serve, and you can serve people by making more money.
Although people will think that.
Oh, that's okay. There's always people that will think that. And those are the people that are scarce-minded and they can't handle paying for something. And so the book's going to be $20. The Audible book's going to be $30. Who knows? And people are going to complain about that too. So there's always something for somebody to complain about. And, you know, we have a mystery shopping community that we have with a partner, and she's an influencer in the space. And we get complaints all the time. You're charging people to learn how to mystery shop? No, we're charging people to learn how to take control of your finances and to change your life, to not have to worry about the rat race anymore, to make an extra $4K for a month for your family. I mean, how much could $4K a month change your life? And so a lot of people are just like, how dare you charge us? But in reality, it's creating freedom. My favorite story of that whole community, and we have like 400 people that are in it right now, and it's $100 a month to join it. So it's not a cheap community. And my favorite story in that community is the fact that, again, we're just teaching people how to mystery shop, but it's the impact you make. This lady didn't work. Her husband brought in all the money, but she was abused. And her husband abused her daily. I don't know if it was physically, I don't know if it was emotionally, or if it was both. And when she started mystery shopping, she found Kayla on TikTok, started mystery shopping. Kayla laughs out loud, by the way. She started mystery shopping, and she made enough money to leave her husband, who had been abusing her for years. Now, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. So is it God's will or is it my will? The great thing about like Kayla, for example, Kayla's story is just like, she's been an entrepreneur. She's done so many things. She's been screwed over by so many people, business partners, clients, customers, just, I mean, like her boyfriends, her fiancés, like everybody has just screwed her. And we found her like 10 years ago at a farmer's market, and we've been friends with her ever since. And I just knew there was something more for Kayla's life. And we've never lost touch with her. We've helped her with, she had a soap business. We helped her with that. We've helped her with a couple other things as well. And we just like never really like gave up on Kayla, because like she's such a good person and she deserves to win. And, you know, I was in a pool in the Bahamas on a mission trip, and we just came up with this idea. And I was just like, she just needs to start telling her stories. Her stories are hilarious. And she's got this deep laugh that's like hilarious, and it makes everybody else laugh. It's not deep, but it's like that deep belly laugh is what I meant to say. It's not a deep laugh, and when she laughs, everybody else laughs. So she brings like a party to her, but then she'll say this, not me. incredibly awkward in social situations. I don't think she's that bad, but she thinks she's terrible. And she says all these funny things in social situations, but her stories are funny, and she's become a really good comedian as a result. And then her following just took off. She became an influencer. She's got over 250,000 followers now. And then we released the Mystery Shop company, and not even like a month and a half ago, it just took off. And it's now making more money than she's ever made in her life. And she's finally being blessed because she just kept going, and she kept fighting through the resistance and just kept taking a punch after punch after punch after punch. And now that she's finally in like round 25, she's seeing the fruits of her labor. She's finally harvesting. And so we're still very new in that company. It's still a very small company, and it's still at the beginning, but there's a lot of momentum. And the cool thing is Kayla has never worried about the money, and she's always done good things. She donates to homeless people. She gives food to homeless people. She pays people's utility bills without them asking. She'll like go to the utility company and just like pay a bunch of bills. And she never had the money to do that in the to begin with. And now she does. And so she's going to do even more good. I wanted to go back to I Love.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add?
Oh, I was just going to wrap it up, but if you've got more to say.
Oh, no, I Love.
Okay.
So I Love was just a result of listening.
Mm-hmm.
We, back in 2007, went on our first mission trip. We've done 17 mission trips now, I think, somewhere around there. And we've done almost 40,000 eye exams and 30,000 pairs of glasses and thousands of surgeries, diabetic, glaucoma, cataract surgery. And that all started from me just wanting to leave the country. And was it me trying to leave the country, or was it God putting me in the situation to get me to leave the country? You just don't know those things until you like put yourself in those situations.
But I think the times when we were doing really well in I Love was the times when we were
Didn't worry
focused.
about stats.
Yes, we were focused on how many people's hands can we get this product into, because this is going to change their life. And we knew it, and it's changed thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that was our main goal. Like, yes, there were times when we were chasing the money, and that's when it felt really hard.
But I was going into like, when we went to Ecuador that first time,
Mm-hmm.
and Angel Rivera was put into my life.
Yeah.
And this is a guy we treated, and we eliminated his pressure in his eye. He was blind from it, unfortunately, but we relieved his pain, and he just started crying and saying, God bless you, God bless you. And then I started crying, and I don't cry. So Jenna thinks, but, and that's when I knew like this was my why in life.
Mm-hmm.
And all those like situations to put me in that spot at that time to experience that. And once you feel that for the first time, I can literally feel it again. And it was like 20 years ago. Yeah. That's when I knew that mission work was going to be what we need to do for the rest of our lives. And so what I realized was like, how can we get ourselves in a position to do this? And so we mapped it out back then, and it was like, oh, we'll be able to do this full time when we're like 65. And I was like, that just doesn't seem right. And so we just started learning and just started saying yes and kind of surrendering to listening to whatever. It was God. And that put us in a situation where we were working for somebody, and then we started our own business, and then we started an online business, and then that online business took off. So we sold all our brick and mortar locations, focused on the online business. And it's just taken us on this whirlwind with I Love, going to sell it for multi-millions, to starting the agency. And there's a lot of gut checks in the agency. I've had to do a lot of hard things and make a lot of hard decisions in the agency, like letting go of my best friends. And I haven't talked to them since. And it's one of those things, like when your gut and your intuition is pushing you one way, that's usually God talking to you. It's not going to be some voice. And even though I have heard that,
yeah,
when I stopped drinking 2 years ago, I heard distinct voice of God. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, your intuition, sitting silently and listening, mm-hmm. what you feel is right. Like that is God trying to talk to you.
And while you were gone, I talked a little bit about the fruits of the Spirit and striving for those in your life, because that's what God calls us to be. He calls us to be all of these amazing things. And if what you're doing is not creating that in you and creating that in others as well, then maybe that's something to pull back on. So I think that that's something that you need to be chasing. I think just to bring this back around, really think about what are you striving for? Is it the money? Are you really needing the money right now? And so that's what you're focused on? Or are you focused on serving and the amount of people that you can help and who God's calling you to help? I think those are all, huge things.
Got one more story, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
Sorry. All right.
So I have a lot going on. And so
What?
she's writing her book. I'm kind of helping her kind of grow that. I have Kayla, the mystery shopping company that I just told you about. It's at kaylalaughs.com if you guys want to see more about that. And then I have my agency. My agency it's a multi-million-dollar agency that we have lots of clients. We have a team of 5 to 8, 5 on the client management side, and then 3 in the back end. And then what else do I have? Dr. Berry's and my brand that I'm trying to create into $100 million. If you didn't see that video, I came out with it yesterday of how we're building that. So there's a lot going on in my life, but there was something that was missing. I felt this hole and I couldn't figure out what it was. And the funny thing is, like when we moved here, we found a chiropractor and we were going to him for a while and he was good. I mean, he was great. I mean, he was a great chiropractor, but there was just something that told me to switch chiropractors. And if you guys go to chiropractic care, it's hard to switch. And so like I switched chiropractors and I was actually going to switch to this one that's like really close to our house. And Jenna's like, you need to try this one because they go to our church. And I said, okay, I'll go to them, even though it's like twice as far away. And I went to it. And he put me in a care plan, which was like $5,000 or $4,500 or something like that.
He put our entire family on a care plan.
Yes. So it was a lot of money. So like, it was like $6,000 total. Went through the care plan and like, it changed my life. Like it eliminated almost all my back pain. I have no back pain anymore. It's amazing. And in the process, he became a really good friend. And not only a good friend, but he had this other project going on. It's called the Warrior 3 Project. It's warrior3project.com. And he's like, hey, check out the Warrior 40 Challenge. It's $97 a month or like $600 a year to join this. Mm-hmm. And so I joined it. And like, I'm a fit guy. I was running, I don't run half marathons anymore, but I run a lot. I was running 3 to 4 miles every other day, going to Orange Theory and keeping up with the 20-year-olds there. And I was gaining weight. I was going upwards instead of down. And I was like, what's going on? And I was up to like 187, which I haven't been that big since like freshman year of college when I was like a full-time, bodybuilder. I know it's crazy, but I used to lift every single day. I used to be like,
this is before I knew him.
Yeah. Anyway, so I took the Warrior 40 Challenge and did this 40 days of following this thing. And I went from 187 to 174, but I got a lot more muscular. I lost a ton of fat. Like I dropped my body fat percentage by like 4%. And it changed my life. And I felt called to help him. I was like, so what are you doing for this? Like to get it out there. And he's like, oh, I don't really do anything. I was like, you have this amazing product that like men don't even know about. And you need to get it out there. And his why behind that is because his best friend committed suicide. His best friend committed suicide, who brought him to church, who brought him to God, I should say, who baptized him. And he was struggling on his own. And so he said, I need to do something about this. I need to make men better leaders. I need to make men follow God more. And I need to get them in shape and better leaders for their families. And I was like, we need to get this out to the world. And I've always wanted to do something in the church, but nothing ever really appealed to me. Like I tried to do some stuff for Adventure Church, which is where we go, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it's just okay. It helped them a lot, but like I just did some stuff for them. So I withdrew from that and I went all in on this, and we're building this together. It's pretty new, but we're working on it. And every man that joins, their life has changed. We've seen people go from like 340 pounds down to like 290, and he's going for 240. We've seen people quit smoking. We've seen people just change their marriages, save their marriages. We have men crying on our calls on Tuesday. We do a Zoom call every Tuesday. We get together in person once a month. And so it's become this men's group, both virtual and in person, because not everybody's local. And it's just been like, that's what I had, this gap, and this is filling it. And I've had so much resistance trying to build that, because I realized I've never really built a business that is for men. It's always been for like women. And I've had a ton of resistance. I've had to pretty much rebuild the whole business as a result. And it's been hard. resistance is high, but I know that is God's will, and God is continuing to tell me, you need to keep pushing forward with this because you're going to change a lot of lives as a result. So that was a long video, but if you're struggling, really dig deep into your why and your motive. Is your motive money? That's why you're probably struggling. Because honestly, everything we have is not ours to begin with. It's God's. The money's God's. Your house is God's. And in 100 years, none of this is going to matter anyway. So go all in, listen, and whatever that gut intuition is telling you, that's usually God speaking to you. So push through the resistance and push through to really just listen. Anything else?
No.